Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that has taken a week off. It wasn't particularly intended, but it did happen. And also the podcast that is down to two people this week. Two people. And this is, well, my name is Tosin. I am the host. I'm based up in a place called Bromsgrove in the middle of the United Kingdom. And joining me on the Isle of Wight, a little island off the south coast of England, is Sharon Bollen.
Hello.
Oh, hang on a second. Sharon, I haven't got you going to the right place, so I can hardly hear you. Let's do that. And let's try that again. Sharon Bollen?
Hello.
That's it. Yes. Yes, now we have Sharon going to the right place. Sharon's actually being
Yay.
recorded. Sharon can actually be heard, which is good because Sharon is the one who speaks sense around here. And yeah, it's good. Yeah, so Sharon, I'm actually, if on this week, right, if I had to choose the person who I wanted to speak to about a show that I'd watched, I think it would have been you. Out of all of us, like
Okay.
with Shaun and Holly, I'd be like, no, I want to speak to Sharon about this show because I think Sharon would. It's every now and then we watch a show and one of us would be like, oh, I think you'd like this show. Oh, I think you'd like this show. And this is one that I'm surprised I've never heard you speak about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised I've never heard you speak about it because I would have thought I was like watching it going, this should be right up Sharon's alley. What?
Haven't I seen it?
Yeah. There's like
I might have missed it.
Yeah. Oh, the thing is, I missed it and it's been there. But anyway, okay. So what we do on this show is that the show is called Netflix Cinema. We go to the cinema, we see a couple of things. We stay at home and we see a couple of things on various different streaming platforms, not just Netflix. We rate everything out of 5, and at the end of the day, we say, where has the money been better spent this week? So, what have you seen in the cinema? What are you bringing forth from the cinema this week, Sharon?
I went to see the film called She Said at the
She
cinema.
said. Yes, from what I understand, that's the journalistic film about how they broke the Harvey Weinstein story, and that led to the Time's Up and the...
The Me
Was it-
Too.
Me Too, that was it.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. I had a blank there. I was about to say that it's okay. I was like, no, it's not. It's very much not
okay.
okay. It's very much not okay. Why did it's okay pop into my head? What the heck? So, right. Okay. So, all right. So you saw She Said in cinema. I saw Strange World. I saw Strange World in cinema. And what did you see at home?
I saw a Netflix film, a Norwegian film called Troll.
Troll. Now I saw the poster for this and I was like, and I had to double check because a couple of years ago there was I think it was a Swedish film called Troll Hunter.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I think it was Scandinavian, but
It was a Scandi, certainly, wasn't it? I have
Yeah.
seen that as well, but I can't
Yeah.
remember if that was Norwegian or if that was because the trolls are, that part of the world, aren't they? Finland, Sweden, Norway,
or was it Danish?
Denmark, a bit further south. Yeah, they travelled a long way, those trolls. But it's
Okay,
not that folklore. And Iceland, probably. It
Yeah,
travels
because
all
I
around
remember-
that folklore.
Yeah, and I remember seeing the poster for Troll, and I remember it made me think a little bit of Troll Hunter, and I was like, is this the... And I realized, no, it's a different film on Netflix, so yeah, I'm interested to hear about that. And the show that I was talking about that I was like, okay, now this is a show that if I had to choose somebody to talk to about this show, it would be Sharon. And that is a show on BBC iPlayer called Mum. Simply called Mum, starring Leslie Manville.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Okay, all right, cool.
it's ringing a bell, but I don't think I've seen it. I know I haven't seen it.
All right, okay, cool. I will talk about that. I will talk about that and later on, and I can go through all the reasons why I'm like, ooh, I think Sharon would like this. I'll go through all of those then. But okay, sure. So let's kick off. Let us get. Oh, we have a Shaun entering the
Have
room.
a Shaun appearing.
We have a Shaun appearing.
Hello.
I believe Shaun is actually at work. I believe Shaun is trying to piggyback off some Wi-Fi. Okay, I'll tell you what, Sharon. We'll keep talking, and then if Shaun catches up with us, he catches up with us. All right, cool. So we're gonna kick off in cinema. I'm gonna kick off with Strange World. Strange World in cinema, which I saw, and Strange World is a new.
And Shaun has seen that one as well.
Yes. I believe Shaun saw that as well. So Strange World It is a new Disney movie. This is a new Disney movie. It is Sharon. I know, animated. So that is like your kryptonite. That is kind of like your why. What is even the point? This is not what. This is not what my eyeballs were made for. I understand that. I understand that is your approach, and I know that you have an antipathy towards anything animated. But Sharon, I know that you have one animation thing that you watch a year, and I think you would like this. I think you would like
Okay.
this because the thing is every single well, if you look at any of the stills from this, right, this looks like, think 1950s and think the cover of a Jules Verne novel. I know the
Yeah.
art that's on the cover of a Jules Verne novel, almost every shot in this film looks like that. And
Okay.
it is so stylized. So it's a science fiction film, but the style, I would almost say, is kind of like a modern, um, of it's a kind of thing that would make people start using words like retro futurist, because it's almost kind of like a modern tale on what people thought the future would look like in the 1950s. So so it kicks off, and the premise of it is that there's this place called Avalonia. Avalonia is this town somewhere, and they have this guy called oh no, it's something played, but his voice by Dennis Quaid, and he's this massive explorer, and everything about him is about exploring, and is about going forth, and is about finding things, and he has this obsession with going and finding the future of his civilization on the other side of these mountains, that sort of like hem the Avalonia in. But he drags his son, Searcher Clade, voiced by Jake Gyllenhaal, around, and he drags him around everywhere. He drags him up these mountains and everything. And his son is really not an explorer. And his son is really much like, Dad, I don't want to be doing these things. But he's like, but he doesn't care. He wouldn't hear any of it. I think personally for me, I think this film is beautiful. I think that the art is brilliant. I think that the conception of this world is amazing. This strange world, which we'll get to. But the whole idea is that this guy, he drags his son around on all these explorers, and his son is not really an explorer. His son does not want to be an explorer. And when they're one of these expeditions going up like a snowy mountain, and they look like they're dressed like Scott of Antarctic and everything, like just sort of like trying to get up this mountain, his son finds this plant, and this plant's sort of like crackling with energy, and his son goes, I think this is something that we found here. And his son decides, I don't want to go with you to the other side of the mountain. I want to take this plant and I want to study it, because I think that this could be the future of our civilization. The rest of his explorer group sides with his son, and then he just walks off onto the mountain going, well, I don't need you. I'm just going to go off and do my own thing. And then he disappears and nobody ever sees him again. But his son goes back home, and you jump 25 years into the future. His son is now a farmer of this plant that he found called Pando, which looks like broccoli, but essentially it powers the entire civilization. It is their electricity, essentially. It powers their ships, it powers their cars, it powers their houses, it powers everything Pando. And because of this, they've thought of this guy. They got Searcher Clade, his son, is like, he is the father of our civilization, because without you finding this thing, we would never have gotten anywhere. But then what happens is that this plant starts to die, and so all of the energy comes realizing this plant, and then it starts dying. And when it starts dying, they're like, we need to figure this thing out. And then the president, who used to be part of his father's explorer group, says, we need to go and explore and find the heart of this thing, figure out why it's dying, and revive it, because if not, civilization is going to fall apart. So he goes off, and through one manner or another, his entire family ends up joining him. So him, his wife, and his son. And then it becomes this whole thing about father, son, going into this strange, like, there is very much a 2000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey to the Center of the Earth heart running through this entire film, where they go into this strange world, and there's all these different things. I think the realization of the world is brilliant. I think it is beautiful. I think it is great. And I really, really enjoyed this. There were some bits of it that I started figuring out as it was going along, but I think I just thought, I'm gonna bother thinking too hard. There's a reveal towards the end that is very there's a reveal towards the end that, if you are a fan of sci-fi and fantasy, will be familiar. I think I'll put it that way. If you're a fan of sci-fi and fantasy, it will be familiar, especially British sci-fi and fantasy. It will be familiar. But all in all, I really, really enjoyed it. Shaun, you fire away. You tell me what you didn't think about this film.
Okay. For me, I found it for me personally, I mean, yeah, the animation was lovely and all that. I found it a little bit patronising. I think. I think it was for me. It felt okay. I can understand this is probably more for youngsters. I mean,
it certainly isn't subtle.
Pardon? Yeah,
It isn't subtle.
Certainly isn't subtle at all.
It isn't subtle.
At all. No. So, but I'm not saying it's a bad film. I'm not saying. I just found it a little bit too. I don't know, a little bit too long. I was getting a little bit, but I did go and see it with my mate and his little lad, and his little lad loved it. He was like, couldn't take his eyes off it. So
yeah.
So I mean, it obviously works.
Yeah. So. Yeah, because I think that the film is there's this recent thing with Disney about you have a power, and this is the way you think the world goes and everything like that, and then the power starts going away. It happens in Encanto. It happened in Moana, and I think Disney are going into this whole thing where, and this film is a very, very unsubtle ecological fable. It's a very, very unsubtle. Okay, our power is running out. Oh, the thing that we're relying on might not be the best. We need to find another way of doing it. And there's the old way of doing it, signified by the dad who walked off into the thing. There's the possibly what you thought was the new way of doing it, which is to search by Searcher Clade, and then there's the future, which is the kid, and it's extremely unsubtle. And and I actually, to be honest with you, I kind of like that. I kind of like, because sometimes there's some films you watch and you're kind of like, okay, what was the point? Were they trying to say that? Was there an allegory? I like the fact that this was just going, okay, no, this is not supposed to be hard to get. It's not supposed to be hard to get. And you especially with everything we're talking about, the energy crisis now, and people trying to figure out how they're going to pay for stuff. This film has come at a time where you're like, it's really not subtle what the film is trying to say.
Not subtle at all. No, in fact, some
environmentally and ecologically, it's not subtle.
Not subtle, and yeah, I mean, some of the should we say some of the they had plenty of other ethnic characters that just popped up for seconds, which I thought were quite they had the whole so it was very what's the word, it was very cosmopolitan.
It was very diverse. I think
that's the word.
Yeah, I think the cast, I mean, even the voice cast is quite diverse. The fact is that Searcher Clade and his wife, I can't remember her name, but they are a dual heritage couple. He's black, no, she's black, he's white. She's voiced by Gabriel Union, so their son is mixed race and all that. And I quite like that. I quite like the fact that they. Yeah, I quite like the fact that that even in smaller roles, this Avalonia is a place where all sorts of races are represented. I really like that. A big thing that Shaun was referring to is that people have referred to this as one of Disney's first films, if not their first film, where they have a gay lead character, and they don't shy away from it. They don't shy away from the fact that the son Nathan is gay. That's like one of the first things you learn about him is that he's gay. And I know that there's been a lot of chat about this. And there's a show you're talking about, you think it's not going to be shown in some countries. I'm pretty sure that it's not being shown in China, because Buzz Lightyear, I mean, the Lightyear film had one scene where a woman hugs another woman and kisses her, almost like a chaste church kiss. And they go, that's it. We're not showing this film. This film is the sort of first love thing plays a much bigger part of this film going through.
I mean, why I was thinking that is because they actually, out of the youngsters, because there's like 3 other youngsters, isn't there, apart from the son, and one of those is a girl. Yeah. And I was thinking, I wondered if they put that in there, and then if they wanted to put different subtitles on, they could pretend that was. I mean, I know it's more obvious with the thing, but I no, that's being too clever, isn't it?
Yeah, you could do that, but no, they wouldn't do that. They would oh my God, Lord, the PR storm that will come down on their head.
You see my logic, what I was thinking. I wondered why that.
I can see your logic, and I think in a pre-internet day, that's the kind of thing that I can imagine would happen, where you get a different cut of the film in Russia or in China or somewhere like that. But in these days where from a phone you can figure out what's happening on the other side of the world, they're not going to do that. So it's and I quite like the treatment, because there's when you have an issue that you want to talk about in film or something like that, be it like ecology or environmental stuff or anything like that, there's ways of doing it in which it feels like you're smacking the audience over the head with it, and you're going, this is important, this is, oh, look how worthy we are. And there's ways, and when that's done that way, it puts me off. And I say that as somebody who, Sharon, you guys have heard me bang on about colonialism and talk about films and everything like. And I have an axe to grind when it comes to colonialism in films. I have an axe to grind when it comes to the representation of Africa in films. And even with that, I still think the way of going about it when you have an axe to grind, when you have a point to make, is not to beat people over the head with it. It's not to act like, oh, look how worthy this thing is. It's just to present it and it's there. Move on. And I really like the way this film did that, because it really presented it as, it's there, move on, nobody cares.
Move on, yeah, deal with it. That's it. Yeah, you're right.
And so all in all, I really enjoyed the film. I love the characterization. I love the characters, and I just think it's one of the most beautiful looking films I've seen in ages. There's just a lot of shots that I would take a snapshot of that and put that on the cover of a book, because honestly, the world that they realize is amazing. And I would give it a 4.
Yeah, I would probably. I mean, I didn't dislike it, but I did find it, like I said, a little bit patronising. So I will give this one a 3.
Yes,
this one's a 3. Yeah.
And I would entirely see that, respect that,
Thank you.
and agree with that. But I'll give it a 4 because I think I was a bit more with it. So now let's go over to TV stuff, and let's go over to Sharon. You saw Troll.
Oh.
Yes, a Norwegian film that was on Netflix. Yes, I think it's number 1 in the Netflix film charts at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, they've been pushing it quite a lot. But yes, it's a mixed English and Norwegian language film, but primarily it's Norwegian. And the main character, you see her first when she's a child, and like the last film, like Strange Worlds, that was a father and a son. This is a daughter and her father, who at the beginning of the film she's a young girl, and she goes adventuring with her dad. He's a folklorist who has a passion for Norwegian folk tales, and one of their adventures, they go adventuring, was climbing the mountains that were called the 12 Trolls. And these mountains were formed when 12 trolls were at a party. They stayed out too long and they got frozen by the sun. They got turned into the mountains. And if you believe, you can see, and you see this moment where the mountains are transformed into these sort of frozen figures of these trolls.
Sorry, just at the moment, Sharon, I'm just, you know what you were saying about like the last film we were just talking about. Yeah. Every now and then you get the feeling, you're like, hang on, were the people who made these 2 films on the other side of the restaurant and overhear each other conversations? Because the beginning of this film, it sounded suspect. It sounded quite familiar, shall I say?
Yeah, I think they seem to have the same sort of inspiration. And so you then jump forward 20 years. And you see the daughter is estranged from her father, because she thinks he's basically had a complete breakdown and has become lost in his folk laws, that he believes some of the folk tales to be true. And she has discovered a passion for paleontology. So she has become basically exploring the wild places for lost fossil remains. And so that has begun her passion. But meanwhile, in another part of Norway, while she is doing her excavations, she notices that there's a protest where a new road is being built through a mountain. And as they are tunneling for this new road, amongst all the protesters and people are shouting, and there's Greta and not Greta as such, but girls who look very much like Greta protesting about them building this new road. Whilst they dynamite a new section of the mountain, they wake something up. And the thing that is woken up is a troll that has been sleeping for millennia. And it decides to come out and basically go on a rampage. And so the Norwegian government call in all the experts of different fields to see if they can identify what it is that's been woken up. Is it something that's prehistoric, something ancient? Is it natural, or is it, what is it? What have they found? And as the story develops, you understand that yes, this is a troll from folklore, and they need to work out which part of folklore is actually based on history and which parts of the folklore are based on stories that grow up around these tales. So we see this confrontation between modern man and ancient mountain troll.
Cool. Okay, so I just had a quick look, and Troll Hunter is Norwegian as well.
It's Norwegian as well. Yeah.
It's Norwegian as well. So what was that, Sean?
I just said Troll Hunter. Troll!
I know. That is an awesome scene. That's just the pronunciation of troll in that scene. Troll is awesome. Okay. So obviously troll and everything like that comes from like Norwegian thing, and you know me, I'm always like a big thing when you have a certain group of people who sort of reclaim their culture, like when the film Ragnarok, or whenever things were made. No, it was a TV show Ragnarok that you watched, Sharon, wasn't it?
Ragnarok.
Yeah, it was TV show Ragnarok, and that was Norwegian as well. Just so like Norse, reclaiming Norse, like we're going to tell our own Norse stories. I'm always a big fan of that. So I like the idea of this. I really like the idea of this. How was it?
I really enjoyed it, actually. It was aware of its own silliness, so it's self-aware in the fact that it was like saying it's a troll, and they didn't treat it, and they referenced things like they had one scene they had when the troll goes on a public rampage, all the different news channels around the world are talking about it, and they sort of mention like popular culture, like the Japanese was saying like it's big, it's like Godzilla. And then you've got all these different references to different, it's like King Kong, and you get all the different references in other cultures that put their own thing. It's like, so you see these little glimpses, and in the British television section, it's only a little tiny bit, you get one of these experts earnestly sort of talking about it, as you often see on our television programs, where whatever happens, they suddenly get an expert in who knows all about it.
Yeah.
They had nice nods. A couple of the Norwegian army characters, one of them is a big Star Trek fan, so every now and then they would suddenly say engage and make it so. So there were nods to sort of that geekdom, and the other nods as well to at one point they say you shall not pass.
Oh yeah.
It's a cave troll. So there were lots of nods, so it was self-aware, it was funny, there was lots of sort of wry humor in it, so I really liked it. I thought it was really well done. I just thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'd certainly give it a 4.
All right, so a 4 for Troll, and I've decided that this is the kind of Scandi stuff I like, because obviously
I like the idea of that. I might have to check that one.
Yeah, because obviously you always have like Scandi noir. That's like the big thing, Scandi. But I think Scandi fantasy might actually be more my speed, because they have a kind of there's almost a kind of like jokey sense about it, like an acceptance that this is silly, and that I really 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 like and really respect. All right, cool. So Shaun, in cinema this week, we're talking about Strange World and we're talking about She Said, 2 films that I know you have seen. Have you seen anything else that you want to bring forward?
Violent Night.
Oh, Violent. Okay, cool. I'll tell you what. So, Shaun, you tell us about Violent Night. Tell us about Violent Night.
Okay, so Violent Night, absolutely silly, anyway. So Violent Night, basically a Santa Claus. There's a nice family and a strange family with a daughter, and they go into the husband's parents' place, who's like super rich and super not very nice person, and although they're strange, they agree to go there. And so this character, and he's got a drunken sister, and there's like a Hollywood chap who or like a star, like a budding star, who says, yeah, I'm great, I've been in all this, who's like his drunken sister's girlfriend, and they've got this rather nasty bloggy type son who's like, yeah, hey, I'm so and so. So anyway, these mercenaries obviously come and invade, to sort of break into the house because they're a rich family and they're after this money. And that just so happens that Santa happens to land on the roof and goes down the chimney, and he's eating a gingerbread. And
this is actual Santa.
This is the actual Santa, yeah, right. And a bloke comes in with a machine gun, and he absolutely, he sort of kills him. He's like, what's going on here? And the reindeers get all upset and they shoot off. So he's stuck alone. And then the daughter manages to get away and hide, but she's got this little walkie-talkie, and it must be on the same bandwidth of the person he's killed. He goes, "Oh, Santa, if this is you," they've told her that it's Santa, and he goes, "Okay." He's like, well, and it turns out that this Santa's like really, really old, and he used to be like a Viking berserker with a big hammer. He hasn't got that to start with, but so yeah, so and then
that's not how I pictured Father Christmas, I have to say, as a Viking berserker.
He's become a bit jaded. He's been doing it so long that, but he's
because they're known for their philanthropy, aren't they? The Viking berserkers, that they give presents to everyone.
And suffice to say that they communicate on the radio a bit like Die Hard.
Die Hard, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's Die Hard, and obviously earlier on in the film, she says, "Oh, I watched that Home Alone. I really liked that Home Alone film."
Yeah.
So obviously, and she's hidden. So, and she obviously finds things to sort of, traps and things. They go, the baddies are saying, "Oh, we're going to get you. Oh, I've seen Home," like with the nails and things. They go, "I've seen Home Alone," and all that. So yeah, and then the woman said, "Oh, you're in trouble now because I've got my crack mercenary team that will kill you guys." And then you see all the ones like the second Die Hard with the skidoos and all that.
Yeah.
They all turn up
and the snowmobiles, yeah.
Yeah, they're all in with this robber who calls himself Scrooge, and he's everyone else is named like silly names, And you've got it's basically Die Hard 1, Die Hard 2, and Home Alone, sort of all rolled into one. I tell you, Tosin, I was in hysterics. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was really, really violent, by the way. And there's a lot of blood and there's a lot of smashed heads and things when he finally manages to. Santa goes in the shed and happens to find a big, one of those big sledgehammer things. He goes, "Oh yeah!" So you can imagine what he does to crack mercenaries and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good fun movie. Absolutely stupid because they probably, like I say, my thing with trained killers and stuff. But nevertheless, it was a silly, really, really enjoyable film, and I laughed out loud. I said to Sharon, I'll go and see it again with her because, I mean, I was never really. I didn't see Home Alone until quite late, and
yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah. So
I've got a confession to make. I've never seen Home Alone.
You've never seen Home Alone?
Never seen it.
What I like. Oh, do you watch it before we go, Sharon? But what I like about it, they go. The baddies say, "Oh, don't be stupid, little girl. I've seen Home Alone." Like, ah! You know what I mean? And all sorts of things still happen. Like with the hair and all that sort of stuff.
With the head on fire. Okay, now the thing with Home Alone is, I reckon that there's a window that you have to watch Home Alone in, and you have to watch Home Alone as a kid, because if you watch Home Alone when you're older, all you can see are the problematic bits of the story. Like, hang on a second, what kind of terrible family forgets their kid at home? Hang on, that kid's a bit of a psychopath. Those people would be dead by now. It's like those robbers would be dead 5 minutes after entering the house because that kid is like quite. So I think that's a problem with Home Alone. Like, if you watch it as a kid, then you have sort of nostalgic feelings about the film and all that, because that carries you through. But if you see it as an adult, you just see sociopathic kid, terrible parents, and quite frankly, Macaulay Culkin cannot act. That's all you see as a.
Anyway,
I think that's how I missed it. I was just too old when it came out. I wasn't in that band.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Violet Night.
Yeah. Back to Violent Night. But yeah, so anyway, so he is the real Santa, and she says on the, like in the dialogue things where he's talking. Anyway, she says, "Oh, what I really want for Christmas is, I'd like my parents to get back together." And certain situations, what happened to them, and it actually happens at the end. And there's, but yeah. It's just really, really, really good fun. And obviously Santa's injured, and they save Santa in a certain way. And Santa's got this. Oh yeah, that's right. I've got to say this. He's got a sack. Right, Santa's got the sack.
Yes.
And he goes in and he can pull out presents and stuff. And he goes, "Oh, what's this?" And he's opening up things to see what. And video game. But oh, what's this? And
like a magic TARDIS sack.
Yeah, like a magic TARDIS sack. Yeah. So, but no, really, really super good fun. Super good fun.
Yeah, because this is a film that when I heard the premise of it, which is pretty much as you said, Die Hard, but this time John McClane as Santa, and and Santa's played by David Harbour, who you might know from Stranger Things, or he was the Red Guardian in Black Widow. Sharon, I think you would know the face.
I know who. Yes, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, David Harbour. So big, massive Hulk. He played Hellboy, most recent Hellboy, and I just felt like a bit jaded, grizzled, maybe slightly alcoholic Santa. I was like, this looks like it's going to be fun. It looks, and the only thing that could mess it up is the execution. The only thing that could mess up is the execution, but this looks like it's going to be fun. All right, cool. So how many stars? How many stars did you give it, Sean?
He's got good lists and naughty lists. So obviously he's got the name of all the. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, but yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, 4-star for me this one.
Oh, 4 stars for Violent Night. Cool. But I'm happy to hear that they didn't mess it up. All right, cool. So we'll go back to TV stuff. Sean, have you got anything on TV that you want to talk about?
I saw Guardians of the Galaxy. This Christmas special.
Oh yeah. Okay, I saw that as well.
I've seen it as well.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
cool.
Oh, right.
Okay, we will. Seeing as it's almost Christmas, we're going to end with Guardians of the Galaxy's holiday special. Yes, we're going to end up with that. All right, cool. But now we're going to go back to TV, and we're going to go back to BBC iPlayer and a TV show called Mum, and a show that that, as I said, Shaun, I couldn't believe that you haven't watched, because it sounds like your kind of thing. I mean, I've never seen, even though you've mentioned it before, you've spoken about The Detectorist. I've never seen The Detectorist.
I love The Detectorist.
Yeah, and
love it.
From what you said about The Detectorist, I feel like Mum might be in that same kind of thing, but only it could be because it's not it's a comedy, but it's not like laugh out loud. It's more observational, and it's all about the performances between this ensemble and how it goes around. So essentially, Mum kicks off in the first episode, and by the way, I have to say this. I love this about British TV. I've watched 3 seasons of this show. I've finished it, and the show's ended. I've watched 3 seasons of this show. 18 episodes, 3 seasons, boom, you're done. I love that, as opposed to like American shows where you're like, just slogging trying to get through this whole thing. And so the first episode of it kicks off, and you're in this lady's house, Kathy played by Leslie Manville, and you start seeing, as things go around her, you realize that it is that everyone's prepping for a funeral, and as it transpires, it's a funeral for her husband. And you get to meet her son. Her son's new girlfriend comes into the house. Her brother comes in with his new girlfriend. Her husband's parents come in, and they just sort of they sort of circle around her. And pretty much every episode of this show happens in one location. So the first 2 seasons, it all happens in a house. Everything happens in a house. And I started watching this, and it depends on how much you can handle cringe, because there's just this feeling of this woman who's just trying to get through life, but she's surrounded by all these idiots who keep bringing her down. And it's all about the interactions that she has with her brother and her son, who's a bit dim, and then his daughter, his girlfriend as well, shows up. And I'll give you an example. She shows up in the first episode, and she shows up and she says, "Oh yeah, unfortunately my mom washed my black dress and it shrunk, so when it shrunk it was showing my bum off, so I decided I couldn't come to the funeral with showing my bum off, so I came in with in another dress." And she shows the only other nice dress that she had that didn't make her look slutty, and it's bright red. And that's she's gonna wear this bright red dress to her boyfriend's dad's funeral, and it carries on through this whole thing. And the one piece of solace, because it's almost as if I was watching it. I showed it to my wife because I was like, I think you might like this, but I'm not sure you could handle it. And she couldn't handle it. She had to stop watching it because she was like, it's just too much. This woman's just under siege. And she has all these idiots coming in and doing this and not realizing that they're being insulted and the performances are on point, and the one bit of solace that she has in her life is a guy called Michael, who is played by Peter Mullen. And Peter Mullen, Peter Mullen, excellent. And this is, Peter Mullen, I think he has different modes. He has kind of like cuddly mode, and then he has absolute psychopath mode, where he's like the scariest person in the world. This is him in cute cuddly mode. And so Michael was the best man at her wedding, was a good friend of her husband. But as it goes on, you find out that Michael has a thing for her, and she also has a thing for Michael. And then what plays out over 3 seasons is the most hesitant, most British, most well-mannered will they, won't they that you have ever seen. And it is like, okay, when people talk about the will they, won't they thing, people usually talk about like Ross and Rachel in Friends. I would take Michael and Kathy and Mum over Ross and Rachel any day. Just the way it's done, it's believable. It's later in life, and the reasons why they might not want to get together are obvious. The way it affects other characters as it goes along. The fact that it is a comedy, even though there's some absolutely horrific characters in there. But every now and then, this show will just hit you with a gut punch of something emotional that you were not expecting. You're thinking that this was just like, you were thinking it was just about people being horrible and Kathy trying to handle all these horrible people in her lives. But then there'll be something that'll come up and just explain why that person does that, why that person is like this. And it's a bit like, remember Ghosts, when you talk about Ghosts, Sharon, and you talk about how every now and then they'll just have this emotional bit that gets you out of nowhere where you're like, whoa, that was actually quite affecting. And Mum does a very similar thing where there'll be something that happens, like for instance, okay, so obviously Peter Mullen is Scottish. And there's this recurring theme where another character keeps trying to imitate his accent. And it's quite frankly, it's insulting. It's insulting. You're like, why does it? And then there's a bit where in one of they explain why that happens. And when they explain why that happens, you're like, oh dang, that's. And there's a character who has airs and graces, Pauline, who is always kind of like, she's the kind of person who walks into the house and goes, oh, sorry, and like they give her a glass of like sparkling wine. She's like, oh, what is this? Is this Cava? And they're like, yeah, it's Cava. It's like, yes, I thought so. You don't have any champagne, do you? That kind of thing. Just sort of like horrible characters. But I think that the show weaves a web. It's a bit slower. It's not like big. It's not laugh out loud. It's not laugh a minute or anything like that. But you sort of find out by the time I got to the end of the first season, I was like, I think this is a really, really good show. By the time of the second season, I was like, I think this is brilliant. By the time I hit the third season, I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm with this, and I do not understand because this show ended in 2019. I was like, I don't understand how there were 3 seasons of this show. It started in 2017, 2018, 2019, and I had never heard of it until I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about a new show that the guy had done and they mentioned this. So I went, oh yeah, Leslie Manville, she's cool. I'll just go watch this. And I'm like, this is a brilliant, brilliant show. So Sharon, I think you would love it. I think it is right up your street and I would recommend that you go watch it.
I have to look that out on the iPlayer.
Yep. Number of stars. I'll give it 4. I'll give it 4 stars. It's and then you can come back and tell me exactly how wrong I was and how much you hated it. But so now we go back to cinema, and Sharon, you saw She Said. Oh no, you both saw She Said.
We both saw it together, yes.
Okay, so Sharon, take us away. Tell us about She Said.
She Said is a dramatized account of how the rise and fall of Harvey Weinstein, basically, and how through a persistent investigation by 2 New York Times investigative journalists, it basically uncovered not just a number of incidents of inappropriate behavior by this Hollywood producer, but it basically discovered through this investigation almost a conspiracy of silence or complicity, in that these allegations were known about to quite an extensive degree, and the system was worked in such a degree that because he was making money for the studios, that they had an invested interest in protecting him to a certain degree, and by basically paying women off to keep quiet. And so these 2 investigative journalists, they started off, they're both young women with families. At the beginning of one of the film, one of them, played by Carey Mulligan, is just having her first baby, and the other, I forget her name.
Zoe Kazan,
that's it. She is a mother of 2 small daughters. And so they have got busy lives. They're in relationships there, but they are like sharp, intelligent women who can do investigative journalism. And so it starts off, they're investigating just basically any form of like sexual harassment, because they're investigating the allegations against Donald Trump before he was a president, how some women had come forward saying that this is how he treated me, and how it made no difference to how he became president, the fact that he had a history of inappropriate behavior.
Yeah.
They were investigating other powerful men, and they started to hear this name coming up all the time, Harvey Weinstein. So they started to investigate what was going on. And so the film basically charts this sort of painstaking investigation in tracking down women who had made allegations but their silence had been bought and paid for, and how they were trying to write a story, but no one wanted to have their name on record. Everyone was saying, okay, I'm going to tell you what happened to me, but one, I'm bound by this agreement that I signed. So I have got this legal obligation that I cannot discuss this. So you can't use my name, but I can tell you in the broadest terms what happened. And then people who said, yes, I'm not bound by any document, but I don't want to have my name in public. I've got a life, I've got family, I know what will happen, what the consequences of doing this are. So it investigates basically the painstaking efforts they took to compile all these accounts. And the more they investigated, the more a pattern emerged that wasn't just sort of current or old Hollywood, like in the 90s, about Rose McGowan and Ashley Judd.
Yeah.
It was about, this is happening right up till today. This is 20 years of abuse or this inappropriate behavior that was physical abuse. It was taking advantage of young women. It was sort of coercive. It was violent. There were a number of people who had made allegations of rape and other sort of just behavior that was completely unacceptable in a professional sort of relationship.
Yeah.
And so it was painstaking investigation, but so it was very worthy, I think is a word that comes to mind. But the only thing about when you have worthy and painstaking investigations is they don't always make great drama, especially when we know what happens at the end. So I felt that, they did investigate these women's stories well. They each had their own voice. They were played by these actors of credibility, who were like, you have I've got her name, Samantha Morton.
Oh,
You
yeah.
had Jennifer Ely. You had Ashley Judd playing herself.
Yeah.
You have this host of these powerful women actresses who are known for their like intelligence and their sort of stance on these things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always make a gripping film, and it was fascinating, but I'm not sure if it crossed the line into good drama. You can't help but compare it to things like Spotlight, where that they made a good drama about a very serious matter, and they made it where they were true to the source, but they also managed to maintain that sort of degree of tension. Because we know that Harvey Weinstein is in prison, and that he was convicted of a number of serious assaults, and we know about the Me Too movement, that all these women did stand up and say, but it was this sort of painstaking stage before they could get that one woman to say, you can name me as a source to add credibility, and then waiting for other names to say, well, actually, yes, you can name me and I will be a witness to this. So it was a good film. It was gripping. It was interesting. It was fascinating, but I don't think it made good drama in the way that other films have done that cover sort of this same sort of thing. I think in some ways they were almost too reverential to the subject matter. They wanted to include everything to give everyone their voice, which is very worthy, but it doesn't always make for the best film. So I thought, I applaud them for wanting to say this, a Hollywood film made about Hollywood that isn't glamorizing it, which isn't celebrating it, which is saying for every Singing in the Rain, you do have a She Said, because, these studio systems are designed to protect themselves. And as long as Hollywood has existed, young women have been exploited. And if that means that a producer invites you after hours to his hotel room and says, can you give me a massage? All the staff members do it. And then all the girls tell each other, if he asks you to go into his hotel room, sit in the armchair, because it's harder for him to get alongside you. Because if you sit on the settee or if you sit on the sofa, he can sit next to you. So if all the women who work there know that, then that means basically everyone in that studio system knew that. So it's things that women tell each other, because I was thinking about my own experiences at work. And there was things that you tell others. I used to tell people when they first started work, when you climb up the stairs, try not to make sure there's no one climbing up the stairs behind you, because you may get a comment, you may get a hand on your bum, or you may get someone looking up your skirt. So you learn when you're a young girl working in an environment, because I was 17 when I first started working in a police station, I learned very quickly that you looked around before you climbed the stairs to make sure there was no one behind you or walking up behind you. You learnt those things, and you told other girls when they started working, if he's walking around the corridor, just hesitate at the bottom of the stairs, pretend that you've forgotten something, turn back, and then come up the stairs so that no one is behind you. You learn these things, and these young producers and runners in the studios were told these sort of things because it was their experience, and so if they knew it, everyone knew it.
Sharon, I'm happy that you can laugh about it, but that is horrific. I'm happy you can laugh about it now, but yeah, that is horrific. And I have no other way of moving on but to say, Shaun, what did you think?
Well, it was no All the President's Men, should we say?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, because I remember watching All the President's Men after years of people raving about it, and then watching and go, okay, this is just the painstaking way of how they worked it, and the fact that it ends with them publishing the story, and I'm like, oh, that was it? Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah. I found, yeah, I mean, the subject matter was interesting. They spent a lot of time driving to different places and flying to different places, and so some nice scenery. I thought it was a little bit long. It dragged out a little bit too much. I think this would have been one of those films that if I'd have watched it on streaming or at home, I probably wouldn't have been. I mean, films like this, I guess, are quite good to see at the cinema because you've only got that to focus. But I can imagine with this film, I'm not saying it's a bad film, but I think I probably would have thought, oh, I just nipped to the toilet, or I'll just go make myself a cup of coffee and then come back to it. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? Which would be easy to do if you were watching it on TV. Oh, I just go make myself a cup of tea, come back, and you could sort of dip in and out if you like, because you knew, like exactly like Sharon said, you knew where it was going to go, and it was just the painstaking slog. I mean, it was quite well acted, I thought.
Yeah, it was well done. I think they were almost too passionate about the subject matter that they didn't have that editorial eye where they're thinking, you know what, we need to make this scene sharper. Because you see a lot about the legal wranglings, how the lawyers come in and they try to play it off, or they try to downplay it, and it's like, there are ways of doing that without basically almost hearing the conversation live time. It's like you needed to have someone who was maybe not as passionately involved to say, you know what, you need to make this scene a bit tighter. You need to maybe cut out maybe all of the flights to and fro, all the driving to and fro, cut those down a bit. And when you have these interviews with the women, maybe, they did a few flashback scenes, and it's like, again, we understand why you're doing this. You're showing us that these women who were affected by these things when they were 21, they're still bearing the scars of this when they're in their 40s or in their 50s, that something that happens to you at the beginning of your sort of independence, something traumatic happens then, that will affect the rest of your life potentially. Because you as one character said, it made her doubt herself, because she found herself in this situation that she had no means of dealing with. She did not know how to cope with that situation. So, as sort of what many women do, it's like, just get through it and then you can leave without fighting or without making too much of a fuss. It's like, just get through it, just do whatever they want or do whatever they say, and then just get on with it. But because they did that to survive, they don't know how this situation is going to develop. They were then made to feel, did I do something wrong? Why would it happen to me? Did I do something that made him think he could do that to me? And that did affect their lives. So you can see how they were passionate about telling these women's stories, but they needed to be a little bit tighter and a bit sharper with it.
Yeah. Okay. So two things. I would think this is the kind of film where, just because of the story that it's telling, I'm probably on the side of let them do whatever they want. I might watch it once and never again, but let them do whatever they want, and this needs to be told. But I really, really want to have almost like a triple bill of All the President's Men, Spotlight, and this, and see.
And the Times, I really like. Is it the Times, the one with Meryl Streep?
The Post.
The Post. Oh yeah, the Post. Yeah. I did quite like that, actually.
Yeah. And I just want to and to see, okay, what works and what doesn't. Is it the subject matter? Is it the interest in the subject? I think it's fascinating as to why a painstaking slog through the investigative process works in one instance and doesn't work in the other. I want to know why it doesn't. But anyway, how many stars would you give it?
For me, I would give it a 3-star.
I would say, for subject matter, I would give it a 4. It's a worthy film, but in terms of actual delivery, it was too long, and I would give it a 3. So I wanted to give it a 4, but it actually delivered a 3.
Oh. All right, cool. So that's 3 stars for She Said. And let us go. And now it is that season. Sharon, Shaun, Merry Christmas. We can say that now. We're in December. We can say it now. I mean, the weather is even like, the weather, I'm not sure what it's like on the island, but I mean, over here, the weather is sort of like obliging. We've had to scrape stuff off the cars for the last couple of days. Everything's been white. So
we had a white frost this morning.
Yes.
The first island-wide white frost. In fact, I was told we've had 2 localized white frost on the island this year, but this was the first widespread. Everything was a blanket of white when we woke up this morning.
Oh, cool. And so the weather's getting to it. So I guess it's about time we actually spoke about Christmas and talked about something Christmassy. And I'm quite happy that this is what we're talking about. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which we have all seen. We've all partaken of this particular cup of Christmas cheer, and we've all seen the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. So who wants to start talking about what this is about?
You're probably the best.
You go, Toes.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. I'll go with this. So the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and I think for anybody who might be into their geekdom, when you hear sci-fi property holiday special, your mind immediately goes back to the 70s and goes back to the Star Wars Holiday Special, which is infamous for being naff. So naff that George Lucas tried to buy up every copy and bury that this thing ever existed. And I think the fact that they've gone and called this the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, they know exactly what they're doing. They know that they are poking that bear of that memory of this is what it is. So this is the Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel's ragtag group of superheroes who introduced space warfare and space travel into the MCU. And what they have is that this takes place after like Endgame and all that sort of stuff. The Guardians are settling down. Peter Quill is quite sad because in quite short space of time he found his dad, then lost his dad, then lost the love of his life, and he's just sort of like down in the dumps, even though he's kind of like it's like he's in charge of this place Nowhere, which is where the Benicio del Toro character, the Collector, used to be. And so the Guardians of the Galaxy are there. They're all hanging out. They're doing the things. Groot has grown a little bit more into last time we saw him was like teenage Groot. Now he looks a bit more like bodybuilder Groot. And it looks more like bodybuilder Groot. So like Rocket is there. You meet Cosmo the dog. But the stars of this are Drax and Mantis. Drax and Mantis, who are probably the stars. When it comes to the Guardians, they're the ones who are always getting the wrong end of the stick. They don't understand sarcasm. They don't understand tone. They don't understand. They don't get anything. And so they go, oh, Peter Quill is actually quite sad. And because there's this whole thing that runs through Guardians of the Galaxy of the fact that Peter Quill was abducted from Earth in the 80s when he was a kid. So all he knows, all the music he listens to is 80s music. All of his references are 80s references. And he has spent ages telling them about how Kevin Bacon is the greatest hero ever because he just keeps talk to them about Kevin Bacon movies. But being Drax and Mantis, and because like sarcasm, I mean, the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie has the all-time epic line where they go, oh, don't worry, they say about Drax, they go, don't worry using sarcasm on him, it goes over his head. And he goes, nothing goes over my head, my reflexes are too quick, I would catch it. And that is Drax in a nutshell. So Drax doesn't get it. So Drax and Mantis don't realize that Kevin Bacon's an actor. They think Kevin Bacon is actually this real life hero, and so they think, you know what, this Christmas thing that Peter Quill keeps talking about, let's do this thing and let's go get him a Christmas present. Let's get him Kevin Bacon. So Drax and Mantis go to Earth to get Kevin Bacon for Peter Quill as a Christmas present, and that's about the only plot that there is in this thing. That's the only plot that there is in 45 minutes. Is Drax and Mantis go to Earth to get Kevin Bacon for Peter Quill, and things happen. And okay, what do you guys think? Before I carry on, what did you guys think?
Well, I quite enjoyed this. I must say, I did quite enjoy this. I thought it was quite good fun. And I really liked the band in it as well when they because obviously they're singing in the Star Wars Holiday Special, so they have a couple of songs. They have a couple of songs in this as well, yeah. Yeah. So no, I found it really, really good fun. And I enjoyed it. So yeah, I found
Sharon?
it good.
Yeah, no, I found it sort of silly and funny. And it's one of those things like when they talk about Christmas specials, they talk about Christmas, and they only ever talk about the secular Christmas. They never talk about any sort of historical or religious or spiritual reasons for Christmas. It's literally Christmas is about giving presents to people, making you all happy.
Yes.
And so I find that a bit funny, really, because I'm thinking you've completely missed the whole point of Christmas, why it started in the first place, and you've gone straight to the sort of modern, what we would call all the things that ruin Christmas. So yeah, I found it funny in an ironic way, but also funny because it is just so silly, and the fact that Kevin Bacon plays like a heightened version of himself, almost like the like we see in the adverts for EE. We're familiar with Kevin Bacon as a heightened version of himself.
Yeah.
And he lives in like this classic Hollywood home that you get the feeling there's probably nothing like his real house. It's sort of, it's sort of glass and smooth, sort of shiny floors with Christmas, Christmas turned up to 11 in every room.
Not taking himself too seriously, I think.
No, because I think it was funny. And
I think we've known in the UK for the last decade that Kevin Bacon does not take himself seriously.
Yeah.
We've known that for like the last 10 years.
So yeah, I thought it was silly, funny. Yeah, it did what it's supposed to do, wasn't it? It was like a 45 minutes of cheer with a little bit of heart running through it.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, because I think that's one of the things that James Gunn does quite well, because James Gunn I think his sense of humor is not, it's not insults to call it puerile. His sense of humor is more puerile, but he does always come up with this sort of little bit of heart thing that comes up, and I just thought it was. I personally just loved watching Drax and Mantis. Like, there's a bit where they go to LA and they're trying to find Kevin Bacon's house, and they end up in a bar, and the bit where they're walking along Hollywood Boulevard and the people think that they're actually people in cosplay, I really like that, and I think Mantis is one of the greatest additions to any MCU property. I think Pom Klementieff, who plays her, is brilliant. I think the way she does it, just the innocence of that character is brilliant. But I love this as well. I thought it was a nice little Christmas thing that didn't end up being too cheesy. And I would give it a 4.
Yeah, I'll give it a 4.
Me too, 4.
I'll give it a 4. All right, cool. So that's 4 for the Guardians thing. I know that Shaun, you're joining us from work, and you probably have to head off and sort stuff out.
Yeah, I do have to get going pretty quick. Shaun, go on.
I was just going to say, so the next thing is, like, who do you think won this week?
Oh, it's close. I'm just going to give it, I think streaming may have pipped it by a minuscule amount.
I was going to say, I think streaming has pipped it.
You guys would be correct, because streaming has pipped it on an average of 4 stars, because everything on streaming had a 4 this week. And cinema sort of like went on an average of around a 4, but ended up on a 3.5 in total. 3.5. So yeah, that's everything.
Still a good week.
I think this has been a really good week. I think it's been a really good week. I don't think there's anything we watched that we hated, and so it's quite good. I mean, this late in the year and everything like that, it's good to actually to have that. But anyway, until next week, in which it will probably just be Sharon and I again, because Holly's away.
I'm not available next week.
Shaun's not available.
I'll be in the air. Providing things are all right, but I'll be flying to Las Vegas in next Thursday.
Ooh.
So I'll actually be on a plane when you're doing the blog. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be able to do it from a plane, but I might.
Yeah, I don't know what the Wi-Fi situation is on planes nowadays. But okay, so that's gonna happen. Sharon's away, Holly's away, so it's gonna be me. So until next week, it shall be me talking to myself about what I have seen or not managed to get to the cinema to see. It's goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
Okay, you guys have started doing that. Started just doing that in tandem. But anyway, Shaun, when you get to Vegas, I want you to recreate a scene from Honeymoon in Vegas, dress up as an Elvis impersonator, and do some Nicolas Cage stuff down the strip.
Some Nicolas Cage, yeah. Okay. We got.